Hey, everybody, it is Tim Gillette, and we are here with another Tim Gillette Show. So today, I get to interview someone who, in the Dallas area, believe it or not, we've got some close connections, but and we've done events together, but I think they've been more virtual than in person, and that's a good thing. All right, but we have some very good exclusive friends that we both trust very much who introduced us. And, I thought he'd be a great match to be on the show. Evan Sanchez is somebody that I connected to through Kim Black. You know what I mean? I did an event for her earlier in the year. We did a virtual event here using the StreamYard platform to help her and her audience out. We just used our tools to do it. And Evan was one of our speakers there, as well as I'm sure he's going to tell you he's a great mentor to Kim as well. So his name is Evan Sanchez. All right. And he's going to talk to us about, selling. I mean, the guy's, he sell like a champ is his website. And I'm sure he's going to talk to us about it. And we're going to get to know him just like we always do. So, Mr. Evan, how are you?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here today with you, Tim. And yeah, I'm glad you remember me. I remember meeting right when the COVID craposphere storm started, and we were all in shelter in place, and we got to do that great event that you held. It worked out nicely.
Yeah. That was I think the one and only time that I've done that for somebody else.
Uh-huh.
And Kim, God bless her. I love her. She is so detail oriented when she doesn't know the details. And I just kept going, Kim, I got this. Kim, I got this. Kim, I got this. But, and we had very few hiccups into it, but it was great because I got to hang out with you more. Trying to think something. Brad was in there.
Yeah.
Scott, having Sean jump in to MC at the last minute was kind of cool as well.
He did an awesome job. Yeah, he did a great job just jumping in.
Yeah. So, but that was great. I mean, and we talked then, and I kept saying, man, I got to get you on my show. So finally you're here.
I know. And I kept saying the same thing. And then I finally figured out, I was like, okay, I finally have something worthwhile to say that was fresh and new and that might be helpful to other people. So I kind of have some, things to talk about today that are groundbreaking. Haven't even discussed them in any kind of online platform at all yet.
So you mean I actually get to help you launch something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, dude, you're making my day.
I had something worth talking about, I hope. So, I figured I'd reach out to you because it was finally that time.
Yeah. Well, just always the stuff that you've been doing, really, while we may not know each other one-on-one and personal, I mean, I always knew who you were. I knew what you were doing. So, I mean, you've been doing great things anyway. So if it's going to be better, that means you're like me. You're always improving.
Yeah, I was going to say same here. I'm doing the same thing that you're doing where, I think I actually saw you speak once at a Jeff Klein speaker co-op event. And you were talking about, how to leverage marketing and how to get your message out there. So again, certainly been exposed to you over the years, but we haven't necessarily had our one-on-one. So I'm happy to get that connection. And again, it's always about what's evolving and how do you stay relevant and how do you provide value? Because what's so crazy is that just like technology used to be like every 6 months, suddenly whatever you had before was behind. Mm-hmm. It's almost like personal development. Whatever you were doing 6 months ago, it's like already behind, especially in sales. It's crazy.
And truthfully, Evan, I mean, tell me, because you kind of dip into the sales as well as the, personal development. Have you found that in the COVID era, all right, if you're not doing some personal development, you're 6 months behind? Have you found that?
You absolutely are. And there's a new phrase that I learned. I used to talk about, the fight or flight. Well, now there's also freeze. So, if your instincts were for you to run or to fight, the new one is that people are just staying frozen. And if they're staying frozen, they're actually finding themselves in high levels of anxiety. And you've heard the term crippling anxiety and depression. That's literally where people are ending up, and especially those people that aren't trying to find some way to pivot or to utilize this. I don't know what you want to call it. It's a challenge. It's the most stressful thing that I've ever been through in my life. Mm-hmm. I know for the business owners I work for, I saw people, go in totally different directions than I thought they would go. I think everyone is spinned out or has spun out at some point over the past 6 months. And now it's really about, how do I create the opportunity out of this mess that's really taken place? And if they're not doing some kind of personal development, again, you're not going to come out of this better than you were before you went in.
And I've always believed that. And I just, you know what I mean? I know that you're a little more deeper on the personal development as far as your courses than I am. And I know that. I was looking forward to asking you that question, because I really feel it's that way, and I'm not that deep into it. So, but you know, you before we go into something, you got something new that we're going to put out today. But before that, let's talk a little bit about your history. Let's talk about where you come from. All right. What is it that got you into the consulting game and into the sales game?
I was born into the sales game, according to my mom. You know, she said anytime that I wanted something, I always had a plan A, and then I knew there was probably going to be some kind of reason why they were going to say no. So I had a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. So evidently I was very persuasive and persistent from a young age as far as figuring out how to get stuff done. I also wasn't one of those people who, you know, relied on everybody to do things for me. I was always like, okay, well, if you can't do it, then I will. That kind of mentality has always been a part of me. So I think that's kind of what got me into sales ultimately. Now, I didn't even know that I was selling. I didn't even know that I was a good salesperson. I think, you know, when you have different jobs growing up, you know, sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a bad day. That's kind of where I lived all the way up until I went to work for the Dallas Business Journal in the early 2000s. And they put me through a professional sales course. And when I went through the professional sales course, I thought, okay, hey, I see why I had some good days and some bad days. When I was having good days, I was intuitively working this sales process. And when I had the bad days, I wasn't doing them. I wasn't doing those things. So,
but how many people have bad days? I'm just curious, you know.
Well, what I like to teach people is that we're all influencing others at one time or another in our lives.
Yeah.
And when you start to translate that into, you know, making a living or getting somebody to purchase something from you, now suddenly it becomes this, you know, weird, crazy, sometimes, you know, bad word when people say sales. And I think that's where some of the anxiety and different things come into play. So it's not really that it's a bad thing. We're influencing others at all times. It really starts to get into the way that you've perceived it. And in some cases, it can be subconscious as well. So that's kind of the sales game. As far as the consulting game, I created a coaching psychology and methodology as a personal trainer in the late 90s. So this was before I went to work for the Dallas Business Journal. And the question that, you know, me and some of the other personal trainers were posing to each other, and I had already graduated from the University of North Texas with a degree and a specialization in sports psychology. So I had a little bit of background in this, you know. I also had a little bit of background in playing high-level Olympic development, semi-professional soccer. So I kind of understood a lot of the mindset pieces. And when someone would come in and pay us $300 to $500 a month to train them to reach whatever goal they had, whether they were a high-level athlete or whether they were a mom that just needed to lose 30 pounds or a dad that needed to lose 30 pounds, it always amazed us that they would throw down the money and we would give them 3 or 4 things to do based upon their goals. And the people who did that got great results. And they were always happy with their results. And they always, you know, praised us and so happy to work for us. And it was a great time for everybody involved. And then there was other people that hired us and they didn't do what you told them to do. And then at the end of 30 or 60 days, they were bitching, moaning, whining, and complaining that they weren't getting the results that they had paid for. And it was like, well, did you do what we told you to do? Have you been meeting these goals? Have you been meeting these objectives? And the answers we already knew were no, because if they would have been doing those things, we would have been able to make adjustments had there been adjustments necessary. And we would have been able to help them get the results they were looking for. And so in coaching, they say a lot of times you're looking for people who put in the effort and who have a good attitude. If you can bring good attitude and good effort, you're going to be a success in just about anything that you did. So if it's that simple, why is it so hard for people to do that? Why? And people are paying $300-$500 saying they want to lose weight, and you're telling them what to do, and they don't do it.
Well, come on. I mean, my sugary drink tastes better.
It does.
That's part of it. Is sometimes it's what are we willing to give up to get that dream or get that goal? So
I think that is true. That's where the motivation of the carrot and the stick kind of comes into play, right? So am I gonna give you something that is going to cause enough pain to get you to change? Or am I going to give you a reward that's big enough to change? And many of the times the reward wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
Right. The guy that, came in because he had a heart attack and he couldn't go scuba diving anymore. That guy, when we got him on a program, he did everything we said, and he got back to being healthy enough to go scuba diving. So he had the right vision. He had the right reward. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to lose the things that he got joy out of life with. So he had the right motivation. But even with those people, there are still barriers and subconscious drivers inside their mind that get in their way. And ultimately, it's up to people like myself to help them figure that out, because they don't know what they don't know. And that's really where the consulting side of things came in, because when you start getting into self-development, what you learn is that's leadership. You have to develop yourself in order to lead others and develop others. And I didn't know that back when I developed the coaching psychology. It was really just to help my clients, right? To get them to start having a conversation in their mind with themselves to say, do you really want this? Like, what are you telling yourself when you pay me $500 to train you for a month and you don't do anything that I tell you to do, except for the small amount of time that you're here in the gym with me? If that's what you're doing, what is it that's keeping you from really taking action towards what you say you really want? And that's where the barriers come into play. So,
and it's almost, Evan, like, I know you've heard it because we're in the Dallas area and we're kind of like the Bible Belt. We've heard that thing, these are just Sunday Christians. So many people are Sunday goal setters, but the work for being a Christian doesn't happen on Sunday. It's Monday through Saturday. And that's it. They're not willing to do the Monday through Saturday routine.
Right. So consistency, right? And, the biggest separation between, in our book, we have selling like a champ, selling like a contender, or selling like a chump. The biggest separation between selling like a contender or selling like a champ is really about consistency and the discipline and being able to, do the things that are going to make you money day in and day out. You know what your 80-20 are. By the way, there's always something that nobody likes to do. Yeah. But you know what? You do it because it's part of the recipe of success. And once you start to understand that, you can hate what you're doing all day long, but that when you do that, the outcome is what's going to carry you through, the lack of desire or the lack of effort that you're wanting to put in at the time. So for me, I'm not a big runner. I've got bad knees from playing soccer and I hate running. For me, I like to go play a sport. I like to do something. So I like to go to the kickboxing gym. If I go do some kickboxing or I go for a ride on my bike, at least I'm not running, but I'm getting in the cardio. So I've got to find something that's more tolerable because I hate cardio, but I still got to get the cardio in regardless. And it's those are the types of barriers that I'm talking about when you're working with a coach or a mentor that has kind of been down the road and worked with a lot of people, where they can help the individual who doesn't know what they don't know overcome those obstacles.
Well, the other part of it is, and tell me if you've seen this, because I know you've been in coaching and consulting probably longer than I have. The hardest thing I see people now in the entrepreneur world is they get caught up in every marketing and sales technique that happens out there, and they have 6 coaches, and none of them are working together. And they're going, well, I wonder why I'm not getting results. Well, pick a path, dude.
Unfortunately, we have that in our medical world too, right? Yeah. We have, we're not feeling good, so we go to our primary care physician. We also maybe have another doctor that is closer. Maybe we have a chiropractor that we go and see. Maybe we're working with a nutritionist. And yes, when you kind of get a lot of different experts with different opinions coming in, it can certainly cloud a lot of people. It's unfortunate when I see that happen. A lot of the tools that we use, we put together maturity models for people. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they go, what the hell is it that you do as a consultant anyway? And, I usually tell them, look, kind of like when I was a personal trainer, I had people that I trained that were training for the Olympics. And then I had people that were, moms and dads that were trying to lose 20 pounds. I'm not starting those people out on the same program. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing when you go to working with a business. And we developed a business model called Springboard Your Biz. And that's kind of where the name of the company came from. But basically, we take a look at the organization and we say, okay, you're either at inception, survival, growth, expansion, or maturity. And in each one of those levels, there's high gain activities to get out of that. When you're selling, you're either selling like a champ, a contender, or a chump. And based upon where you're at, there's high gain activities that are going to help you elevate your game. So again, we're kind of always helping people understand where they're at from a maturity level towards their goal. Mm-hmm. And that helps to cut through some of those, other things that they may be paying for marketing or for sales or for the newest technology, the newest shiny object that they saw on Facebook to kind of help them, nail it down. As a matter of fact, next month I'm speaking, and one of the topics we're going to talk about is really kind of helping to sell in a virtual environment. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about how people are doing it backwards. And the first one is that what they're doing is they should be thinking about the message, the market, and the method, but they're first thinking about the method and then the message and then the market. So the method would be like, oh, I heard somebody's making money on TikTok. I need to go do TikTok. And it's like, no, that's the method. Yeah. Don't start there. Start with, what does your ideal buyer say that they need? What's the conversation going on in their head, so that we can start to then, create that message and then go to the method of how we're going to get that message out. So again, it's a lot of tug and pull and really helping people sort out their thinking so that they really can start to improve their behavior and ultimately their performance.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, over the years though, your techniques that you're using, like you talked about, I help the guy who's trying to lose weight versus the guy trying to train for the Olympics. It's different. Well, over the years, has the exercises and the habits and the things you're getting people to do, has that changed with the way technology and the world has changed?
Yes. The newest term that has come about over the last maybe 5 years in sales is a term called sales enablement. Mm-hmm. And in the sales game, for the most part, you used to be able to go and visit, let's say B2B sales. We'd go visit another company. We'd go to the front desk. We'd ask for the decision maker for whatever it was you were selling. You get their information, you hand them their card, and then, basically you say, okay, I'll follow up. And you try to follow up with that person. And ultimately you would get an appointment of some sort, and you would typically be able to take them to lunch because everybody likes a free meal. And then you would get to pitch, and you would either do good or not. And your close ratios would be somewhere around 20, 30, 40%, depending upon what you were selling. So from a a mindset or, a how am I going to win perspective, it was a process that you just had to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the internet, started to really become the go-to place when somebody said, I'm thinking about buying bleep. When they started to go to the internet and started to Google, that's when the buying process started to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it has just, that's what accelerated every 6 months, right? That, hey, what you were doing 6 months ago to get leads suddenly isn't working 6 months from now because there was new technology, there was new tools being used. So the newest thing that we're seeing is that we have to start moving away from sales enablement and move more towards buyer enablement.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much about the salesperson going out and doing all of these activities, but again, getting the right message to the right market in the place, the method that they're at, so that we can start gaining their viewership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They can start learning because we can start to generate some interest, and then hopefully we can get some inbound leads coming our way. So that's really what you're seeing from Facebook to LinkedIn to Instagram, all of these different channels. And then, of course, when you're locked down and 50% of people are still working from home, it amplifies it even that much more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always been an advocate of that in the fact of with blogging or live streaming like this. And that is, you need to be putting your message out. And I mean, still go to a few networking functions, very few that I go to anymore, because I avoid the people who are, hi, here's my card type deal. And I'm going to the places that by the time someone meets me, all right, they're Googling me on their phone and realizing, oh crap, I need to reconnect with that guy real quick. I mean, that's it. I mean, I've got that information on the web to where now you can Google me from your smartphone sitting in the meeting while the speaker's on stage. And if I don't make an impression on you that quick, I'm losing the sale. But I better have content online to lead to that. And it's exactly what you're saying there is now everything's leading to that. And, Evan, I've always said I'm bad at sales. I just got really good at marketing. So that basically I have a ton of leads.
Well, I would say, it's both sides of the hand, as far as the sales and the marketing. And I think that part of that switch has been that marketing has actually bled over into the sales arena. Yeah. It's almost gone more marketing than actually sales, because again, you're kind of going out and trying to add value versus push a product. Depends on the whole strategy of the company. We talk a lot in Sell Like a Champ. We talk about the fact that, if I'm selling something as a freemium, like an app or something like that, that's not real complicated, it's okay to say, hey, try it free for 30 days. And after that, we'll pay, $7 a month and you can use the app.
Yeah.
That you don't need a salesperson for that, right? You can put that on autopilot.
Yeah.
But when you start asking people for, $10,000 or more, or you start getting into some type of higher level complexities where, people have to think a little bit harder, and you start maybe getting into buying cycles where there's a collaborative, group of buyers, maybe 10 people involved in the sale, that's a whole new level of complexity. And that's where sales still lives. But the rest of it up to that is really enabling the people to make the decision and ultimately buy.
No. Well, I mean, let me come off of the business side and get to you a little bit personally to you, and then we'll go into the what you're doing new now. Is personally in your own personal life, all right? Did you go through some get some mentorship or something that made you go? I mean, other than your mom, that basically went, you know what? I'm going to go down this path, and this is where I'm going, and that mentorship is leading you till this day. Maybe something a mentor said still leading you to do what you do.
It's a great question, because I was very, very fortunate at a very young age to figure out that I wanted to be a professional athlete. And I was 3 years old when I walked out of the house and walked across the street to the park and joined the soccer team, and came home and told my mom that I joined the soccer team. And she was like, "What do you mean? Who are you talking about? You're too young to play," that kind of thing. So what happened from there is that I had a lot of coaches over the years. And then as you start getting into, some of the select leagues, I was playing soccer, and, I had a coach by the name of Joe Sheely. And I remember that he had played in Europe. And so, he would yell at us and use the word bloody every time we did something wrong, So I got my first international kind of exposure. And at that time, I started thinking, okay, yeah, if I'm going to be a professional athlete playing soccer, I need to be an international business, because it really wasn't that big of a sport in the United States at that time. So I knew if I was going to make money, I needed to go into international business. And that pretty much drove me, through high school and everything. I still didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to be involved in some kind of international business. And I wanted to play soccer because I was going to be a pro.
Yeah.
Now, I had the typical, I went off, graduated high school, and was playing semi-professional. And all I needed to do was get a little older to play pro. And then I got hurt again. And the next thing you know, they say you can't play anymore. And that's kind of where everything went sideways for me. And so I talk about that as kind of the dark years of my life, where I didn't know who I was or what I wanted to be. I just kind of kept going through the motions of, well, I'm in college, I guess I'll go through and, study psychology. We'll see what happens there. I don't really know. Finally got closer to, graduation, and still not really knowing what I wanted. And they came out with this field called sports psychology. And I thought, oh, wow, hey, that sounds cool. Like, that's finally, two of my worlds coming together here. So I transferred from Texas Tech up to the University of North Texas and finished getting my bachelor's degree in psychology, and also studied under Trent Petrie, who was the sports psychologist up at UNT and in charge of that department. So when I was going to school there, I was also a personal trainer. And that was kind of the whole conversation I was telling you about earlier, where we were like, why do these people pay us, but they don't do what we tell them to do, And so we put together a program, and we basically introduced them to a thought process that got them to think to themselves. We got them to balance positives and negatives. We got them to understand that there was going to be some challenge, and out of those challenges were going to be some of your greatest achievements. So we framed them in positive ways. We got them to take action, and we started creating essentially corporate wellness programs at that time. And we didn't know that that's what we were creating, but that's what we were creating. So I took this to Dr. Petrie up at University of North Texas, and I said, hey, I want to show you this program that we got. We're helping lots of people, and I wanted to kind of get your blessing. Hey, is this stuff real or what? What do you think? And he looked at me and he goes, you got two paths here. He said, if you like research, you could come back here and you could get your master's, and we could research this, and you could do all kinds of studies on it, and we could put out all kinds of papers. He says, or you could go and market it and just try to create your own path with it. Because he said, you don't need me to tell you that you have something. If somebody's willing to pay you for it and they're happy at the end of it, then you have something. And I think that was the best advice, because I was like, I am no researcher. And I went out and I started my business, which was Ultimate Performance. And it is still the basis of everything that we're doing today. So it's still the passion. It's still the interest that I had there. And I think the next person after that, at that time, which was, in the late 90s, the only person that I could find that was doing something close to what I thought I could do or wanted to do was Anthony Robbins. So watching Anthony Robbins, following him over the years, later on when I went to the Dallas Business Journal and was learning sales, then it was Zig Ziglar. My sales manager gave me a CD of Zig Ziglar, and I would listen to him. I lived in Fort Worth, and I had to drive to Dallas once a week to go to our Dallas meetings at the Dallas Business Journal. And so on the way there and on the way back, I listened to Zig Ziglar. And that's really who transformed me as far as the sales game goes. But I would say that, I had great coaches. I had great teachers in college that gave me great advice. I was just really lucky and really blessed. And then ultimately Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar.
So, and I think, I think that I listed them as two people who are heavily influenced my life as well. Now, Tony, I've never gone to any of Tony's stuff. Well, then again, I've never gone to any of Zig's stuff. I just knew him personally. And I think for me, sometimes knowing people personally gets that impact in my life, because when I see the people who live what they teach, and Zig lived what he taught. So great influences there. You had two great ones. So let me transition now into, all right, you said you got something new coming up here. Let's talk about that here in the last couple minutes. What's this new thing you've got?
So the new thing that I have, it's a pivot, if you will. It's a little bit more based upon what we had been working with prior to COVID happening. But, it all goes back to the thinking. And if you really look at, the way that we talk to ourselves and the internal conversations that we have with ourselves, that's really the basis for our success or for our failures. And, I used to talk to people and talk to them about how 80% of our self-talk is negative. And people like Zig Ziglar and Anthony Robbins, they learned how to make 80% of their self-talk positive. So if you can flip those two things, that's what's going to take you more places than anything else. And so when you hear these people talk about, mindset, and you hear people talk about, the magic and the secret and, all these different things that make all of these things sound mysterious, a lot of that is still cool. But the reason it's been mysterious is that we really haven't been able to nail down exactly what it is. And there's a company by the name of ThinkX that we've been working with for the past 3 years, really. We were working with them before they were even known as ThinkX. I worked with the psychotherapist who actually developed the program. The program has been clinically and scientifically validated at this point. And essentially what they've done is developed a diagnostic that helps you identify whether or not you've got 80% positive thinking or 80% negative thinking going on based upon
put that up by the camera one more time.
So this is the diagnostic results, and you can see that the areas in red, these are subconscious drivers that are hindering success. And then the areas in blue are subconscious drivers that are promoting success for the individual. So we've actually got it down to a science now where we can have somebody take a diagnostic and we can say, hey, this is what's getting in the way of you being able to achieve your dreams or your goals. These are the subconscious blockers that you didn't know that are continuously interrupting whatever it is that you start. And so we took this diagnostic and said, hey, you know what? So many things are changing in the world of sales. What if we profiled some top performers that were already working from home or working from anywhere prior to COVID-19 hitting? And we interviewed them and we had them take the diagnostic. And what I just showed you was, this is the aggregate results for what a sales champ looks like in a work from home sales environment for outside sales. And then we also did one for inside sales. So we've essentially mapped the performance drivers in the subconscious of sales champs for inside sales and outside sales for people that were already working from home. And so we're really happy to be bringing that white paper out. and helping people understand that there are some tools that they can now start to use, because what used to be working, say more in a relationship driven type of an environment or sales environment, is not going to work the same way in our virtual sales environment that we have. So, it's great that we can do that for sales, but literally we can do this for any position in a company or an industry, where we can say, hey, can you give us 3 of your top 10% performers? We can then have them take this diagnostic and be able to get an aggregate. Once we get the aggregate, or the top performer template is what we call it, this template can be applied to hiring, right? So we can do an audit of an entire department or entire company. You can stack rank their thinking compared to the other top performers and say, okay, well, we've got people down here that are D players. Let's see if they're a better fit in another place in the organization. And then we can hire to these other people that are thinking like our top 10%. The B players, if you will, so maybe the top 15 to 20%, the next layers down, hey, let's put them through some targeted coaching on maybe 2 or 3 of their drivers that are getting in the way. And in a matter of weeks, we can start flipping those negative thinking, those thoughts that are getting in the way. We can start to replace those with the positive thinking that is necessary for them to get the results that they're looking for. So it's not just about individual development. It's also about organizational development. And it's also about being able to do it faster, more accurately, and more personalized for our clients.
Excuse me. Yeah, that's wow. You know what I mean? It's almost like you've taken some of that, you know what I mean, years of thinking, and you applied it into doing this and being able to transform in a matter of months.
Absolutely. It's literally what I was working on in the late 90s, right? When we were sitting there going, why aren't these people doing what we tell them to do? Well, it's probably because they've got a high controlling driver or a high skepticism driver, meaning I'm in control. I don't believe that's going to work. I'm not going to do it. Maybe they have high levels of self-defeat. Maybe they have a high need for reassurance, or they have a really low level of self-consciousness. But those are the negative drivers that we can specifically address. And in a week, we can actually help them replace the thinking that is holding them back with thinking that will drive them forward.
Wow. So, it's interesting is in that you're doing this, and the biggest thing I want to do now is there's people who are listening in. They want to probably tune in and go, they want to get a hold of you and go, how do I actually get in touch with you to find out how to make this work in my company? And where would you recommend they go to find out more about you and this?
Well, this is all still so new. Everything is still at Sell Like a Champ. So many years ago, when I told you we were creating programs that ended up being corporate wellness, we would go in and we would talk to them, and we would talk to the owners, and they'd go, well, can you do sales? You're really good at sales. Can you do sales? So every program I start with now that has to do with personal development, that has to do with improving businesses, we always start with sales. But that's why I have it at selllikeachamp.com. We'll be starting with sales, helping people identify the inside and outside sales thinking patterns that are helping them drive success, or as an individual, right, what they can do. Now, for our personal development, because it can be changed, can be rolled over into everyday life, we use the term think like a champ so you can live like a champ. So
great.
That's kind of the rebranding or the pivoting that is yet to come. But all of that starts right now at selllikeachamp.com.
Selllikeachamp.com. Well, wow, that's you've given us a lot of information. It's a lot of technical as well as informative information today, Evan. I appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Like I said, I was really excited to finally be on your show and have the opportunity to get to know you better and talk to you and your audience. And I felt like we finally got a good thing to talk about, and we got to launch it right here with you today.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you being able to launch it. That's the first in a while that I've had someone launch something on my show. It's just been one of those years that a lot of people are skeptical on launching stuff on podcasts they don't know. So anyway.
Yeah.
So, well, Evan, I appreciate you coming in, but you know what I mean? I kind of finish up my broadcast, every week with a game I like to call This or That. Have you heard about my game?
I have heard about your game. I should have watched a little bit more. I'm nervous. Kind of like
Yeah.
Truth or Dare here, or what?
It's not quite that bad. Some of the questions could be a little funny. Some of them could be like, eh. And I think I got 9 questions that are relevant to you, I think.
Okay.
So I start this off every time with a question I ask everybody, and that's because I want to know which side you're on, and that is, especially with the new Uber commercials, and that is Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Star Wars, all right. So I guess it's the old school. Did you see it, the first one in the theaters?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you're around my age, and that's that. We were
Oh,
just
yeah.
getting into movies when the first one
Yeah.
came out.
Mind blown back in those days with
Yeah.
Star Wars.
So my next one here is kind of related to what you were saying about some of your past, and that is, would you rather see American football or would you rather watch soccer?
You know, it depends. If I'm watching, I actually would rather watch American football. If
Playing,
I'm
though,
playing,
you'd rather play.
if I'm playing, I'd rather play soccer.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go into one here that's kind of a little into the music side of it. I don't know how much into music you are, but the band Van Halen seems to have a lead singer problem. Do you prefer Dave or Sammy?
Dave. Come on, Dave.
I like Dave too. So, and then I kind of move into food products and go, how about taco or hamburger? As a Texan, I kind of think, but you never know.
Hamburger.
Yeah, I was a big hamburger fan too, but there's certain tacos here in town that are just good. Yeah.
Chicken fajitas.
Yeah. How about if you're driving your car right now, would you listen to a podcast or music?
Music. But it's changing. And that was part of the, getting on this show. I'm not used to doing these like I used to, but yeah, it's right now it's radio, but I'm going to podcasts.
Cool. How about coffee or tea? Which way do you use to start your day out with?
Coffee.
Coffee. Black, or are you like the latte guy?
They tell me that what I drink isn't even coffee. I got to put some French vanilla stuff in there, or some kind of cappuccino or macchiato, something like that.
I drink espresso with a little bit of whipped cream. That's my morning drink.
There you go.
I'm the hard stuff, baby. So you're also a Dallas person, so I'm going to ask you, in your opinion, who is the most legendary Dallas sports figure, Dirk Nowitzki or Troy Aikman?
Aikman.
Okay. I think Dirk, but anyway.
I had to tell my son who Aikman was this weekend. He's 14, and Aikman was the announcer. Yeah. And I had to tell him that guy actually knew what he was talking about.
Well, yeah, he used to be one of the great football players here in town. When I moved to town, he was still playing for him. So yeah.
Yeah.
No. My last two are the controversial ones, and this one here goes to the toilet paper. Does it go over on the roll or under?
Over. That's what my wife says, so that's what I do.
Okay, yeah, that's in my house. It's what the wife says, so that's what we go with. Yep.
Yeah, because if it were just up to me, I could care less.
Yeah, in my personal office bathroom here, the roll just kind of sits there. It's not even put on. Yeah. And my last one I like to ask because it's just weird and stupid, and that is boxers or briefs?
Briefs.
You're the first briefs guy we've had in a while. I'm just saying.
Well,
not that hard of a quiz. So, well, that's it to it. That's all we do is we get a little bit of fun to end our broadcast with. I appreciate, again, Evan, that you came out here and shared with our audience here today about what you do and how you help people. One more time for the audio as well as the video, tell them that website so they can get a hold of you.
I'm Evan Sanchez, and you can find us at Sell Like a Champ, where we can help you think like a champ so you can live like a champ.
Cool. Well, thank you, Evan, for being on here today and sharing with us. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in and actually hearing about some of these people that we bring on to you. As you see, Evan is one of the great people that we bring in. We bring tons of them in. All right. Do me a favor. Go check out Evan. Go to his website, selllikeachamp.com. Check him out. Check out to see what they're doing over there and see if it's something that you need or maybe you know somebody who does need it. And by all means, that's why we do it, to introduce you to those people. I'm Tim Gillette with the Tim Gillette Show. Be sure to go and subscribe to us on Apple Podcast. I'll see you next time with another great guest. Bye now.
Bye-bye.